Hello, listeners of the Lumber Word Podcast. We just wanted to let you know we're excited because the Lumber Word Podcast will be at the 2025 Montreal Wood Convention, but not just for a visit. We're going to have the pleasure to do a live show on Thursday, April 10th in the morning. The podcast will be set in front of a live audience filled with participants from the convention. Special guests will join us for this unique presentation of the Lumber Word. So register for the 2025 Montreal Wood Convention at www.montrealwoodconvention.com and make sure to be live with us at the Lumber Word episode, sponsored and made possible by Sitka Forest Products. Looking forward to seeing you there. It will be a great time and much will be learned.
Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Gregg Riley, and Ashley Buckholt dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 102 of the Lumber Word. We've got Matt Beamer, Hampton Lumber Sales, Gregg Riley, Sitka USA. Hopefully Charles will join us in along the way here. This is getting to be one of the last shows of the year, but we'll get a couple, maybe squeeze a couple more in here. Kind of strange time of the year, less shipping days, etc. But we thought we'd kick it off by talking a little bit about what's going on in the lumber market. I mean, what I see going on is some of the numbers slightly adjusting. Typically, this is the kind of lull in the end of the year. I saw some numbers adjusting, at least in the eastern spruce market on 104 and 5/8. People willing to do some stuff in the last 2 or 3 days, selling well below the print price. Mills quietly doing stuff, not adjusting numbers. And then today being Thursday walking in, all of a sudden the people that have missed out.
Wednesday, Ash. It's only
Wednesday. The people that have missed out.
You're a little early.
Kind of are looking to do some stuff. So I think there's sneakily a lot of interest out here. And what I've seen is people, hey, guess what, Gregg and Matt, if you wanted to put cheap numbers on stuff for the first quarter, there'd be people let you ship stuff for that. I'm more than happy to let somebody else do that, because I'm not interested in taking that risk from somebody when they should really be buying cash right now and getting deals. I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there, but if you probably polled most of the market, they think we're going to have higher numbers in January. So that's my thought of what's going on there. One of you boys want to jump in and tell me what you're thinking?
It's pretty quiet. It's that time of year, right? It's the sort of the gray zone between Thanksgiving and New Year's is where we are right now. There's more wood popping up, but it's not enough to make a huge difference at this point. It's just there's going to be some deals made by people that are paying attention here in the next 2 weeks. And that's always the case during the holidays, you know. So the young guys, coach's tip, if you're a young guy in the business and you want to endear yourself to producers over your career, this is a good time to be working hard. You know, a lot of the veteran guys are taking time off, and the young guys that are sticking around and putting deals together are going to benefit from that. I found that to be true when I was a 29-year-old guy. Yeah, no, I mean, let them. Hey, look, if you want to advance in your career, if you're a young trader and you want to gain experience, you know, this is when you can show your true worth as a trader, is during slow periods of time. That's what we call action men, right? If you want to be an action man, these are the time periods where you actually have to have some action, and you can't just talk a big game. You got to actually have to produce some stuff. So having firm offers, having orders, having destinations, having some game is a nice little feather in your cap if you're that guy in December that can solve a mill's problem.
I guess the two things that I'm most surprised on is, one is that when the market was better right up until Thanksgiving, that mills didn't take a better advantage of building their shipping file, given that it's always the same. But there was clearly some mills that opted to push their price and slow sales as opposed to selling into that strength. That having been said, I had an interesting call today, like longtime friend in the business, from a mill. I respect him a lot. He's a really, really good guy. And he's like, Greg, talk to me. I have all sorts of people wanting to buy, 5 cars, 10 cars, 15 cars. And I said, well, what do they want to pay you? About like what, $40, $50 under your price? He said, yeah, pretty much. And they said, well, do you need to load anything between now and your shutdown? Oh, that's right. You normally never shut down over the holidays, but you're shut down for a full 2 weeks, right? Yes. I said, well, do you think that you'll be able, do you think you'd be able to sell that in January if nothing happens? Right. So we talked about it. And this is my thing is, at this point, if you're a mill and you feel like you need to sell before your holiday shutdown, well, hey, you're gonna take a really poor price relative to the market. I want to have Ash. I know we want to talk about what we think about next year. But how do you want to segue into that? What do you
Well,
like?
I guess,
You and I were having a discussion today about like demand and home sales and et cetera. I mean, here's the deal. Reality is we're in a supply push market, which is why post Thanksgiving we hit an air pocket, right? We hit an air pocket,
yes.
and that's what supply push markets are all about, right? They, when the bid goes away, it falls from its own weight, and that's where we are. We've fallen from our own weight. We're down $50 to $70 a thousand from high trade 3-4 weeks ago, depending on the item.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff moving here. And I think where it came up, I kind of poked my head into Greg's office today, Matt, and I'm like, hey, where does everybody think the market's going to be next first quarter next year? I go, because I know what I feel. I feel it's going to be higher. And I get a little bit nervous when I just say that. I mean, I may have a lot of different reasons than other people. I think some other people may just think there may be the Donald Trump quota coming on or tariff. And I don't think like that. I'm just thinking there's business is going to be decent, and there's not enough inventory in the pipeline right now at the end use level, and that will be picked up in the first quarter. But then I say okay. One way I wanted to segue into it is I want to talk about who's building all the homes. Well, when I look at Lance's Reese Club, he put out a story yesterday from John Burns. Publicly traded home builders are buying 60%, 66% of U.S. finished lots. Private builders, smaller builders, are significantly lower than that, according to this article. They're 28%, and then investors are 2%, and build to rent is 5%. All right. So I look at that, and then I say, all right, you sent me over an article in the Wall Street Journal this week about how new homes are as close to existing homes price-wise as ever before. All right. And I look at the other, Lance Lambert sent another one out. One of the interesting thing is home builders have one of their largest inventories. The home builders are buying most of the lots, but they also have one of their largest inventories since 2009, I believe it is, which to me is crazy, right? I mean, but as he says in this article, does that mean that we are actually anticipating better? Does that mean they'll have to adjust prices, which they probably have room to? So all this stuff is going on in my mind, and I'm thinking, all right, well, we're building inventory in new homes, and there's not many existing homes on the market. So where does that put us in the first quarter? Where's all the business going to come down if these guys are building inventory on homes and continuing to build spec inventory at the large home builder level? That's where I want to start.
Yeah, I don't see it being just quarter. I think in the first quarter, I'm looking at internally here at Hampton, the volume of contract business that we have to supply, and some of this is expanded over last year's volumes, and some of it's new. But there's never been more contract wood for us to worry about as a company. than there is today, November 11th, 2024. And that is now an immediate future problem, right? We're not in October. This isn't something that's going to happen next quarter. This is going to happen in 3 weeks. So on January 1st, the clock ticks for 2025 for Hampton and contract supply. And I'm telling you, man, it is not going to be simple. There's some heart palpitations going on around here as to how we're going to keep up with all this stuff, right? Because it's easy to do in like November and December when nobody's all that busy, but in the heart of the building season in February, March, April, May, when supply crunches actually occur and people really do want to buy lumber on purpose for springtime and summertime and build up inventory, well, we still have all this committed stuff that we have to supply too, right? So I don't necessarily look at inventory today as a bad thing. I have a decision. Can I take my inventory and turn it into cash today? Yeah, I always do that. I do that every day. Do I want to blow my brains out on my inventory in the middle of December knowing what's coming in front of me in January and February? Absolutely not. That would be a big mistake. That kind of goes back to what Gregg's line of questioning was with the sawmill that's going to be down for 2 weeks. So there's other things going on in the background here that producers are sensitive to that might not have anything to do with whether your guy wants to buy something for $40 less today, right? But I do encourage you to find those situations where there are guys listening to $30 and $40 bill counters and then engage, because that will disappear after the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, it is to your point, Matt, really typical this time of year, for kind of the under the table deal and not really represented the market. And then we come back after that 2 week holiday, and it's usually always much more active because people have been on holiday. One of the big wild cards always in January is weather. Weather in the producing regions. Does it have any impact on transportation? And then weather in the consuming regions. Do we get that? Is this the year that it's a couple 3 week ice storm down into Dallas and Atlanta, that far south, right? Is this the year?
Yeah.
And how does that impact it? What's your sense, Matt, of how much inventory build had customers have done for Q1 at this point? Do you have any sense of that?
I do think that our customers collectively have added to inventory over the last 60 days, and a lot of that wood has now arrived, if not all of it. And they're, in some cases, they're just churning right through it. In some places, like in Colorado, I was really busy selling a bunch of lumber into Denver a month ago, and now they're not busy. And so they've slowed down, and it's gotten colder over there, and so they're starting to perk back up again. But they went through about a 2 or 3 week period there around the Thanksgiving holiday, where they just were dead, and so their usage just dropped off. The same thing happened to me in Phoenix, although again we're picking back up in Phoenix here this week. I feel like inventory is moderate right now. In fact, I was down in Texas last week, Gregg, touring around 3 different reloads, and all of those inventory levels were medium. And I've been to those reloads multiple times, so I have a pretty good baseline of data to fall back on visually. But it just feels like the market's sort of in balance right now between what the customers wanted to do, what they've done, what the mills wanted to do, what they've done, and then what's going to happen in front of us here in the next 90 days. And so we come into 25 with a bit of optimism and some tailwinds. And, now we'll see if it actually plays out the way everybody thinks it will. But I feel like inventory is pretty much just sort of average right now throughout the system, Gregg.
Looks like we got somebody who has joined us here, Ash, huh?
Casey. So Charles sent you in.
I remember that guy.
So,
I saw him on after school special.
I was just about thinking, I'm going, boy, we probably need to change the intro and add Charles's name. And then, and then today happened. So, hey, Case.
So Case, we were just talking
Southern Yellow Pine update, right?
Good deal. Let's talk a little bit about Southern Pine, and then I'll give Charles shit next time for not keeping his schedule straight right in the middle of the podcast.
He's a
Okay,
millennial. He
sounds good.
can't help himself.
Yeah, I can give you a quick overview of Southern Pine, right? After that good move up right around the time of the hurricane, we've probably given about 75 to 80% of that move back. So we're maybe off the lows of July, 35 to $40 higher on a few things. We are seeing some signs of participation, and we're finding a stabilization point here on pine. We kind of feel like January is going to be a different market than it is right now. But right now, there's still work to be done. There's still mill inventories that need to be cleaned up. I'd say 2x6 is a bit stronger than 2x4, but there's still work to be done across the board.
What are you seeing on any Southern Pine's a little different than spruce, but is there any type of inventory build at all out there? Or is this the reason why pine just keeps leaking? It's just there's no inventory build. Mills haven't built an order file. We're back to where we were, 4 or 5 months ago, where everything's either prompt or you can get everything within 100 miles of your location on the pine side for less money and quick shipment, right?
That's been the case, yeah. We haven't seen anybody really stake out an inventory build. We've seen a lot of inquiry for first quarter, but first quarter, there hasn't been a willingness to pay any sort of premium to cash. And we're not really participating in that world without some sort of a premium.
We didn't do that trade last year, Greg, and whoever took the orders actually won. Remember?
Yeah.
We had this exact same conversation a year ago, and poo-pooed the idea of taking business for February on yellow pine, and whoever had the steel balls to do that was a damn genius, right? Because it went even lower.
Yep. No question.
Why
about
was
it.
that, Casey? You remember last February?
I mean, it was just extra production that was on the marketplace that wasn't there the year before with these new mills that have popped up in the efficiencies. And fast forward a year, we've taken a lot of production off, but you get a couple big facilities, and they're just got the pause on. They want to get to next year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the larger people wanted to build 55 to 70 days of pine right now. I think it'd probably be a smart thing to do, but just haven't seen that happening yet.
Here's my guess. I think the numbers that we see from different companies of ours production are just straight out freaking wrong. I think there's a lot more production out there on pine than people think there is. And it's not catching it in one way, shape, or form here. It's just there's just more production out there, and it's just not getting picked up for some reason. That's just my thought. And price is kind of telling us that.
Well, my guess is, Ash, is that they've just reduced all the inefficient stuff and replaced it with more efficient stuff, right?
Yeah, so, no, that could totally be. Or on the, I mean, I guess Greg.
It's like, I mean, it's supply and demand, right? I mean, we got to a point in July, August there where, clearly, we had cut enough production and, and the level of demand and how much inventory was in the field where, we shifted that balance. The wild card is what's demand going to be for next year? Ash, you and I had a conversation earlier. We go, okay, so like this year, single family is going to be up, I don't know, 3 or 4%, right? It's been very, very steady. But to your point with builder inventories at 9.5 months, and the price. One of the most interesting things is the price of new homes is collapsed down to historically carries a decent premium to existing homes, and it's down close to the same price. I mean, you're not comparing apples and apples because, Ash, to your point earlier, where are all those new homes? They're like an hour and plus outside, of center cities. Right. And
yeah, I mean, if I want to live, like I said, in Algonquin, Illinois, 50 miles from Chicago.
Don't disrespect Algonquin.
No, Algonquin's great. I can buy a house from one of the big home builders at a pretty good entry level rate at a discounted rate from what I saw in their ask prices versus quick move-in prices. But guess what? I don't want to live out there. And with more people having to return to the office in Chicago, we see that actually ticking up. Like, I think that where a lot of these homes are being built, not in every state, but are out far enough where land was a little cheaper, farther enough away for stuff. So when you get this return to the office, even on every percent, makes a big difference to how far people want to commute every day. Even if it's now, if you're in the government, you only got to commute on the last day of the month and the first day of the month in order to check the box to say that you were there for 2 months. But the public sector, the private sector doesn't let you do that. Right.
Well, but no, but it's.
I don't know.
crazy when
Casey's
you
got a
look at
pretty
the
good
companies
gig in
that-
Traverse City.
but what's crazy when you look at all the companies that still are like, oh, it's 2 days a week or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's lots of jobs that remote work works just fine for, and there's a place for it. But there's a lot where where it doesn't make any sense. And I mean, Casey is way more productive sitting in Traverse City than he would be sitting in Bishopville, South Carolina. I guarantee it.
Yes.
I think he needs to move to that town you were talking about in Illinois.
But the whole
but like me, I'm way more efficient, in the office than I am at my house. I would be like,
Well,
yeah.
Greg, you're using the term office very loosely. Your office is wherever you happen to be sitting at any moment.
No, but my physical office where I can like walk next door to Ash, and that I'm more productive there.
So
You
here's
need a desk and a phone.
That I'm in right here.
So
Exactly.
funny story, Matt, Casey. I was I'm working on a firm with a guy out of the Cape, and like I have this thing. If somebody's over 40 years old, I'll generally call them on the phone. If they're under 40 years old, I'll text and email them, because some people won't even pick up the phone if they're under 40, even if they're sitting right next to you. And so I'm working on this firm, and Greg goes, "Why don't you call the guy?" And I looked over at Greg. I'm like, "For God's sakes, Greg, it's 2024."
Yeah. He goes, "Okay, boomer." Okay, boomer.
Why don't you hit him up on Instagram
Yeah, exactly. Or on MySpace
or WhatsApp?
So look we've said all this. If you were a big production builder or a truss plant, or you've got jobs not bought for Q1 or Q2 and you're a multifamily, what are you doing right now? What should you be doing? Are you just pricing that 30 to 60 day lock with no risk to every lumberyard around the US? Or are you going out and saying, "Hey, I want you to give me firm pricing for 6 months of for H1 of 2025, and I don't want to do this 30-day lock anymore because I think there's more upside"?
If you're a multifamily and you have a Q1 start and you don't have that locked in already, what are you waiting for?
You're talking Southern Yellow Pine in general, or are you talking in everything?
I'm talking everything.
Everything.
Like, the best case scenario is when we look at the current prices is maybe you're going to be able to pay close to these prices. That's the best case. The worst case is you're going to pay, a 10, 20% premium. You get any rally going in Q1. I mean, seasonally, the market high is somewhere between the second week in February and the first week in April. That's a seasonal high in lumber.
Casey brings up a great point here, though. I mean, let's go back to that question. With Southern Yellow Pine being where it's at, and people not wanting to really put anything under 8-inch on the ground in pine, I mean, I can make an argument that if you have business sold, however comfortable you are feeling, you should have at least the first 4 months of that Southern Pine bought and put on the ground somewhere, even if it's 4-inch or 6-inch or anything. Even with storage, where's your downside to that? I mean, how much downside do you really have in pine?
All you have is cost of carry.
Well, yeah, we're in the part of the market now where number 2, number 3, and number 4 are all condensed within $20 of each other on some of these prime 2x4 12s and that kind of thing. So to your point, there isn't a heck of a lot of downside from here, right? I don't know what's going to spark it. I don't know when it's going to happen. It should happen, but I'll tell you, like, living in this world now with the majority of my time, when spruce was as hot, heavy, and doing as good as it was, and some of these 700 plus numbers, I was sitting here scratching my head, just saying, man, I don't know how that lasts without us going up or them coming back down, right? And we haven't went up yet. So there's these just crazy spreads going on. Like we've all talked about substitution, but like sooner or later we become an anchor to how far spruce can go.
Yeah. Here's my, so Casey, I'm going to throw it in, Matt. This is to any of the Southern Yellow Pine mills listening, and this is my pet peeve.
Do Southern Yellow Pine mills listen to our podcast?
So don't charge people $20 1,000 to put paper on something if you want people to make a conversion from spruce over to Southern Yellow Pine. Put paper on your damn product, and don't tell me that you don't have enough people out there and tell me that you want to put a great big freaking condom over the car instead, because that doesn't work. If you want to sell people pine for a long period of time and they want to buy it, put paper on it, and don't upcharge on it, and sell all your pine like that. There, I'm done. My rant's done.
It was,
I think what you're saying.
I like the part that there was no self-interest involved in that at all, which I respect.
Well, how much time, Greg, do we spend trying to buy pine where you got to beg 3 mills to put paper on it and none of them want to do it, and yet they want to move lumber?
Yep. No.
I'll tell you, just from experience, we've got jobs in the past because we can paper wrap and we don't really like make a huge deal about it.
Well, no, somebody asked me the other day, a spruce centric person, why Southern Pine isn't making more inroads. And I said, well, one of the reasons is they don't want to put paper on anything, and it's a pain in the ass. And you know what? If I'm going to put it in a Northern Reload, even in the winter, I need paper on it, period. And it's got to be decent.
Yeah, you don't want that cheap ass polyvinyl stuff that deteriorates after 2 weeks in the sun.
Like what? Remember, back in the day when we first started in the business, Eastern spruce used to be poly under the top tier, and it was always considered an inferior product because of that.
Yeah,
but like once all the Eastern mills got on the program and went, we're paper wrapped just like the Western mills. The differentiation completely went away. This is an eye opener for southern producers.
I want to back up for 1 second.
Will the reloads do that for you?
Sorry, we just go back to where you were. We lost the connection for a second, so go back to where you said Southern or spruce.
Oh, I was saying, will the reloads do paper wrapping for you? Like, will they offer that service to you if you bring in bright?
Yeah, but the whole point is it makes everything so much messier, right? It's that if you were producing lumber at a mill and you want to ship it to somebody that's in a different state or on a car or even on a truck, and they want to use it like they do at spruce, it's got to have paper on it. I mean, nobody wants to do extra work anywhere because labor is too tight. So yeah, reloads will do it and they charge you. I just don't feel that that's something that we should have to pay for in 2024 going into 25 from mills anymore, or just include it in the cost and the price.
Hey, Casey, I'm familiar with that question. A lot of reloads don't have paper. So the answer would be no, obviously, since they don't have any paper. But the mills that do have paper tend to hold on to it and keep it for the most valued customers because the stuff's expensive and it's hard to find. Unbeknownst to a lot of people in our business at the mill level, one of the problems with the mills in the last year or two is I think it was Dow or Owens Corning or one of the big producers of that material that is used to make paper wrap. They shut their plant down forever. And so the industry, anyone that buys that paper wrapping material has had to scramble and realign suppliers for just regular old mill paper wrap to where it's become a bit of a hot commodity. I mean, I get people calling me going, "Hey, do you guys have any rolls of paper wrap we can get from you? You know, we need to wrap some lumber down here." And it's like, sorry, call Europe, So that's something that's a little different here in the last. It used to be really easy to get paper wrap, and it's not as easy as it was before. But I want to make a general observation going back to something you were talking about, how you were sitting around twiddling your thumbs when 2x6 spruce is selling over 700. And it really just goes to point out where we are in time. So we've reached a stage now where spruce and hem fir and Doug fir are not completely commodities like they used to be. They're not as mass produced and as widely produced. There's fewer producers. and there's more contract wood, and there's less open market discovery on all of those things I just mentioned. The one true laissez-faire capitalist thing that's still truly a commodity is yellow pine. It's because it's being produced in a wide variety of places by a wide variety of different types of owners. And the production of that stuff has increased. It's doubled in the last 10 or 15 years. So it's like, it really just boils down to what part of North America can you produce timber out of and still be profitable? And the only one that still you can say that is the South, right? I mean, there's no real margin in spruce. There's no real margin in Western species. I mean, not compared to the break evens of what yellow pine. You guys can sell 2x6 in the low 300s, and some of those mills can still make money
I
at
don't
that
know. That's
level
a big
based on
question. Like right now, I mean, aren't they at the current numbers aren't like,
no,
3/4 of Southern pine mills losing money at the current
no,
prices?
nope, they are not.
Really? Okay. I mean, that's
No, see, our log prices have
where
gone
we've
up here in the
gotten back
last
to-
6 months.
No, I think where we've gotten back to right now in this snapshot, maybe like the last 2 weeks, they're pretty close to break even now.
But they're break even in the low 300s. There's not a mill in North America, not a yellow pine mill, but if you're talking a spruce mill or hemper or Dougfir mill, none of those mills are going to break even in the low 300s. They're all getting their teeth kicked in, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's a break even at Western spruce mills? I looked at January futures and reflecting like a 450 Western mill. Isn't their break even like 550?
Let's just say it's between 450 and 550. I mean, let's say it's
Depending on
500. Okay, let's
depending
just
on the
say it's
mill.
500 with all the math and the tariffs and the taxes. And
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
think it's in that 450 to 500 range personally, but not every mill is as efficient as the others. And some of these mills can produce things that are value added, like 2x12, like Dunkley or finger joint studs or some other things where you can pick up some margin. But
So, with that as a backdrop, I guess my general sense is on the supply side, there's not like anyone that's going to be adding extra shifts in the new year at the current prices.
no, and I think you can see a real divergence between yellow pine and everything else. I mean, we're kind of in uncharted territory, dude. 2024, we had our low of the year in the middle of January, and then we had a big fall anti-seasonal rally. Those are two strange things to have occurred in the same year, right? Now, we finished the year with spruce being twice as expensive as yellow pine on 2x6. I mean, that another unusual occurrence here. So maybe you can just throw your previous 30, 40 years worth of experience out the window. We're kind of entering a new phase of
I'm not going to do
reality
that.
here.
I'm not going to do that, Matt, because I'm going to stick with I'm going to stick with the historical seasonals. There's always something that tweaks it, but that's like the underlying baseline, and then different things happen for different reasons, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can say that during, hey, you can throw all the seasonals out during the pandemic. Well, yeah, because there was a pandemic and that changed things. I think this is going to be an interesting thing when we get in Q2 in 2025 with the tariff on Canadian lumber going like up double to 30%. What does that mean? What's going to happen in the second quarter? How are mills going to position themselves for that? Right?
So, conspiracy theory to that one, somebody was telling me the mills.
You love conspiracy theories.
Who
don't
doesn't
you?
like a good conspiracy? Some of the mills, what percentage do all the Canadian mills own of Southern yellow pine?
All of it. No,
like a big chunk, right? So maybe the thought there is a big, and I mean a big tariff. Maybe the DT tariff. After Trump tries to penalize the new governor that he has up in Canada. The DT tariff and something else that will get more people to switch over to pine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
something's going to get people to switch over to pine.
I mean, it's like, is spruce going to become a specialty product?
Isn't it already?
Yeah.
Casey, or real quick before Casey jumps in here, maybe the real savior will be when the CME launches their new Southern Pine contract in Q1. If they're going to do that still, that that gives people more freedom to put stuff on the ground and hedge it, right?
Yeah. No,
Casey, what were you going to say?
No, that could be exciting. No, I'm going to say, I guess my question is, with all how everything has transformed, right, in the last few years, 10 years, whatever you would say, what species price movement do you think is the most impactful on the marketplace? What tells you more? Does spruce going up tell you the market's going to be better and everything will go up, or does pine going down tell you that the market's not going to be so good and you're going to go revert to that? What's the more important species now?
I mean, it's, like it obviously depends on what you trade. I mean, one of the issues that we had was when we ran our basis numbers, the correlation between spruce and pine, it's perfect. There isn't one. I mean, there's just as much of the time they move in opposite directions as they move in the same direction. So, when I put a basis trade on with pine, there's no to the fans out there. I have one on right now. It only kind of works out almost by accident as much as anything. But I do believe the one thing for sure is that pine anchors spruce to a degree. Spruce can only get so far if pine's holding it down. And then, the last thing that I haven't talked about yet is, European shipments. How much will European shipments increase in the first quarter because of what happened to the prices? I mean, we were at a conference in Vancouver and, they really can't ship that much more. So, I mean, I guess my conclusion is it's going to be nominal, but, are they going to ship more 2x6 16s? Yeah, absolutely. I'm still on record saying 2x4 and 2x6 16s will trade at the same price sometime in the first quarter.
That's Greg, just to add to what you're saying on the basis trades, the pine trades, where there's not as much of a correlation. That's why everybody puts them on at the tips, right? When they're as wide as they ever get. That way, if they don't work, they don't hurt as bad. And if they do work, it's like freaking Christmas time, right?
Right.
So, but if you're trading right in the middle of a range and it's in there and the spreads aren't are not very wide, it's a tough one. But that's why right now, I mean, I want to have a conversation about 2x6 pine.
March 2x4 spruce is $595 Chicago, $480 mil, and you can buy 2x4s at what case? Like $340, $350?
$450 with paper.
Mil.
Yeah, mil, you're about $360. Mil.
Okay. Yeah, $360. So you're buying, call it close to, $120 under. I mean, should work out. It's, you're not going to get hurt probably much by it, but.
Well, gents, it's getting up near that 40-minute mark. You want to jump in? We haven't done marry, date, or dump for a while yet. Kind of excited about doing that. Like, to close this one out. And Greg, you could, Matt or Casey, you can go. I'll go last because I don't want to. Greg's got his ideas on stuff, and I don't want to.
We have not confirmed notes today, so I mean, this is going to be free form.
Yeah,
let Casey go. He can take my spot.
Okay.
I haven't thought about this.
Casey, before you go, are you wearing that hat in there because that room doesn't have a heater, or you just wanted to lower the temperature in your house to like 60 to save money?
He's just lowering his carbon footprint.
I get to do a lot of cross-country skiing in Traverse City, so I sometimes do that at my lunch break and come back and get called into a podcast.
You have snow. You've snow up in Traverse City now? You already got snow?
What's that?
You guys got snow up in TC?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we just got absolutely almost 3 feet of snow, and then we melted off, and then we're getting snow again. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So, anyways, but I'm happy to go. Mary, I'm going to be marrying what my company does well, and that's going to be 2x4 and 2x6, 104 and 5/8 Southern Yellow Pine, along with 2x6 plate for pine. for the reasons we've talked about, price spreads, and we're seeing some Q1 demand start showing up. So hopefully it'll be driven by the multifamily guys. Date. What's the Euro 2x4 16 worth at the port now?
575 to 600.
70, something like that.
Yeah.
Pulled back, not all the way back, but yeah, I'd say that's getting to be something to look at dating. And I would say a dump right now. And I hate to say this because I trade a lot of it, but be careful with OSB. It looks like it's kind of plateauing out.
Hopefully you sold all your transit inventory first before you said that, Casey. I think we lost him.
No, so what Matt, what's your thought on this one?
I have no thoughts on it. I generally speaking, I like 2x4 everything compared to 2x6 and wider. So if you just want to look at big picture stuff, if some mill wants to sell me some 2x4 studs or some 2x4 plate at minus 40 or 50, I'm probably going to just take them up on it and shove it into my inventory and wait for a rainy day to capture some extra margin there. Because I do like the spreads, and they do point to buying and being an aggressive buyer of 2x4 on dips, right? So I like 2x4. I'm marrying 2x4, period. And then the dating thing is just basically I'm just dating for the rest of this month. I'm just dating my inventory. Wait. I've got more stuff going on in January of 2025 than I care to admit. And I've got all my kids coming back home from college and whatnot starting tomorrow and Friday. So my house and my life is going to be kind of a zoo here for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so. And in the meantime, I still have a job to do, which is manage inventory. And so I'm dating my inventory. I'm managing my inventory. Dumping, I'm not really dumping anything, but if I was a mill or if I was a guy trying to harvest profits, I would be dumping my 16s, 18s, and 20s. I would be dumping my 2x6 and wider high value items, right? I wouldn't call that dumping. I would just call that profit taking. I'm always a guy that wants to dump like beaks and feathers, old inventory, slow moving SKUs in your inventory. That never changes, but especially so at the end of the fourth quarter, right? There's another one I would throw in there is just be a good inventory manager and finish the year strong with getting rid of your old shaky lumber.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that, like, hey, I'm going to go backwards and like dump, in December, with prices down on, like the relative lows, there's really not much to dump. Yeah. I mean, I think overvalued item, clearly 2x6 16s are overvalued. So I'm happy to sell those. I mean, they've got good liquidity still. And, while I'm predicting they're going to trade at the same price as 2x4s, I mean, I think that there's going to be plenty to trade along the way. I'm dating, like all studs, 8s, 9s, 10s have kind of collapsed a little bit on me here, but I mean, they're very good, great liquidity items every day. And, we're back down at numbers at the mills that there's no profit in the current stud numbers at mills. Does that mean they're going to cut production substantially? No, but at the margin, yes. And I don't think we've fully felt the extent of, the permanent and temporary curtailments at spruce mills. And I'm still having this wild card that, last year, first quarter, weather was wide open, had no impact on production in Canada. And you had a big increase in available lumber because of all the burn timber. We've got the complete opposite this year. So, any tweak in the pipeline, I think would cause a pretty substantial spike in price. I'm married to 2x4 Southern Yellow Pine. I'm basis trading it, but I'm going to outright buy some too, just because, I feel like you're at like long-term unsustainable numbers, and the net's really close here. So why not? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky. Uh,
the great one. The great
yeah.
one.
Yes, and moving forward, it only works out by looking in the rearview mirror, right?
Hey, Yogi Berra.
So I love it that you're talking about pine because I want to marry some more pine. And Casey, I love having you on here because now I just don't want to buy pine 2x4 2 and better. I want to buy pine 2x4 2 and better for or number one or prime for under 2 and better prices. And maybe dabble in a little bit of 2x6. I like that. What else I'm marrying is just from what I've seen this week, first thing to go up, first thing to go down. So I don't know if I'm marrying or dating it, but I'm going to marry it because that's just how I roll. And then 2x4, 104 and 5/8, number 2. Quite a big move this week. Now everybody's calling back, wanting numbers from yesterday. I think it kind of went back down to where it's where it kind of went down to near just above its old low of the last time we moved down. That's one thing. Dating, I don't really have much. I'm kind of dating because I think you either have to be decided in or out here. But dumping and Matt, I agree with you. Beaks and feathers, I like to call them hot dogs. Anything that you swept up on the floor and made into something usable, you want to get rid of. And also lightening up on some of the 2x6 just because it's probably wise to take profit in here on it. I'm also dumping anybody that wants me to sell them Q1 for at or below today's numbers. And that's
you're not just dumping products, you're dumping actual people now. I love it.
Well, you got to be able to do that, right? Sorry, I had a venti Starbucks today, so I'm a little wound up.
That's pretty funny.
Casey's just like, can we get this over so I can get back out skiing? People are waiting. Is your family waiting for you outside freezing right now, Casey?
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're in the back room. I'm sure a couple little ones are chasing after my wife right now, I'm sure. But
I appreciate it. Well, thank you.
No, I mean, I love to do this when I can, guys, for sure.
Well, look at everybody. Appreciate it. We had a lot to talk about today. We'll try to circle back next week. So Gregg, Matt, Casey, all the listeners, we appreciate it. And make sure you forward this to other people to listen to.
Hey, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Take care.
Good
Cheers.
to see you, Casey.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.